What is the pure word of Christ? In the last few years, we'd be thinking more in terms of grace, wouldn't we? The grace-filled word of Christ, not works. But actually, there's another telltale sign. Because we were all raised in Genesis 3. And Genesis 3 has a certain infrastructure. It's of the order of sin and judgment. It's of the control, top-down hierarchy way of operating. What is the pure word of Christ? It has no agenda mix. That's why there's no one leader over any work of Christ. That's why there's no ministry organization name coupled with Christ. That's why Jesus said, call no man Father, call no man Rabbi, meaning teacher. What Jesus said was, if I be lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men unto me. In one of the last posts, I've been going through how that one verse has been taken, hasn't it, through the tabernacle with us, and it has different flavours in each place. In the first place, I was saying it is the most obvious expression of, in a similar way to the snake being lifted up in the wilderness. Jesus was to be raised up on the cross as an emblem, saying it is finished, to thousands of years of satanic reviling and justified railing against us as our accusers. Now no more. In the words, it is finished. Then remember, I went on to say that how in the charismatic movement particularly, this idea of raising Jesus high brought in a whole new purposeful emphasis on worship, to actually establish the presence of God in a ecclesia meeting. But God is now saying this, taking this further to say it's not just in the worship part of a meeting. If I be lifted up refers to the next bit. What Jesus said was, if 2 or 3 gather in my name, then there I am in your midst. When Jesus ascended into heaven, a revolution took place in organization. He gave gifts unto men. In the old order, that really means nothing. In the order of sin and judgment, there's leader stroke instructor and non-leader stroke instructor. When Jesus ascended, he gave gifts unto men. It wasn't portioned to one person to form his own wife, nor run his own wife. 3 times in one chapter, 1 Corinthians 12, it used the word diverse. Diverse individual gifts across every member of born-again, spirit-filled body, the priesthood of the Lord. Diverse ministry functions. Paul does 3 lists of ministry, and they're not the same. They're nearly the same, but allowing for overlap, I counted 14 types. Diverse operations covers everything else God does sovereignly among his congregation. In Acts 2, there was a staggering amount of operations and only one ministry function, Peter's opening key of the kingdom message. Operations included the sound of a mighty wind, cloven tongues of fire on each head, spontaneous loud praises up the streets, drunkenness, speaking in tongues of men and angels, and being a feast day of mixed nationalities, people heard their own languages spoken by people who didn't know those languages. Church, ecclesia, church, trains dependency on the Holy Spirit. It trains us on how the kingdom operates. Indeed, unlike the angelic top-down hierarchy operation, it's much more how our own body cells operate, sending signals to each other and supplying different components to each other. This is why it says it is an instruction to open-mouthed principalities and powers. The church is the manifold wisdom of God being made known to principalities and powers in the heavenly places. What does that mean? It means they really didn't know that way of operation existed. It's being made known to them. And us only being clay pot vessels a little lower than angels. I don't know how Matthew types, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, yeah? I don't know how the Matthew quartile are going to pull through this changeover period. But on the plus side, only one Matthew used to get to climb the greasy pole. Now we all get to operate. Do not lord it over one another, as the Gentiles do. That means there are leaders in areas of ministry, but they don't get to reign solo over all the rest. Stephen headed up the mercy ministry function, but he didn't run the church. After James was killed, and they're about to do the same with Peter, Peter didn't run everything. All the apostles went house to house. 1 John 1 describes very distinctly how they, plural, operated. With all these very clear scriptures, it's quite a wonder of the world how we can spend 120 years of church after the 1900s outpouring of the Holy Spirit once more, still not obeying a thing in the Bible. Nor, if we're really honest about the ways God has been moving amongst us, following exactly what the Holy Spirit was doing. Every time we reached a fence, according to our human tradition, we send the Holy Spirit packing. Oh, it's time to baptize the infants now. Oh, it's time that the illegal head of the church, the priest, the vicar, the pastor, takes over as rabbi, teacher or father now. Oh, it's time for us to run the Santa celebration now. Oh, it's time for us to hold 1 minute of silence for honouring all the dead we killed as we followed Albert Pike's 1871 Luciferian instructions for World War. Anybody grabbing this? When Jesus ascended, he established a pyramid order under one human head. Record scratch sound. No, he didn't. When Jesus ascended, he gave his own grace, gifts and abilities, gifts unto men. This was so we would learn his supernatural life, so we would be equipped in a full-orbed Revelation 12:1, crown of 12 stars type of way, to become kings in our region.